Exposed, the incredible truth about frontier survival that will change your life forever. Jake's hands were grimy, the scent of motor oil and sweat hanging thick in the old garage like memories of a brighter past. His father, a proud Vietnam veteran, had built this place from the ground up. Every bolt tightened, every engine repaired, was a testament to a man who had survived war and created a home. But now, as the world outside changed and the heart of his community seemed to fade, Jake felt the weight of that legacy pressing down on him. The garage had become more than just a place to work, it was a lifeline, yet it was fraying with the threads of despair. The neighboring towns attracted opportunities with their shiny new businesses, draining life from his little slice of existence. Each day, he watched friends turn into ghosts, once vibrant faces now brimming with hopelessness. It pained him deeply, his heart tightened like a wrench on a stubborn nut point. One day, while rifling through a dusty old box, he stumbled upon that faded journal. Its pages, yellowed with time, filled with tales of resilience, survival, and adventure in the frontier lands that his father had faced. Each line pulsed with courage. It sparked something inside Jake, igniting the urge to revive not just his father's name but something bigger, a spirit, a heartbeat for his community. He envisioned workshops on self-reliance mechanics, survival skills, and building the very bonds that once held them together. Thoughts swirled in his mind like whiskey in a glass, intoxicating yet frightening. Would the townsfolk rally behind him, or were they too far gone? But as he announced his plans, doubt gnawed at him. Jealousy coursed through the cannot hear of the town, murmurs of another scam and what does he know? Began circulating. Faces hardened, arms crossed defensively. Yet, Jake pressed on. It felt right, like tightening a bolt that had come loose. Hope surged through him as townsfolk began to trickle into his workshops, faces once etched with skepticism softening. Just when things seemed to take root, disaster struck. A storm unlike anything the town had ever seen charged in, unleashing wicked winds and torrential rain. Fear gripped Jake like a vice as he looked out through the window, watching neighboring homes bend and sway, families scrambling for safety. Wasn't this what he had hoped to prepare them for? And yet, here he was, paralyzed with doubt. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He was torn between the weight of those watching him, ready to judge, and the flickering light of hope deep within him. Gathering every ounce of his strength, Jake knew he had to act. He glanced back at his father's journal, whispered words of encouragement, and felt the warmth of his father's spirit. The wind howled outside, and so did the doubts, threatening to drown him in uncertainty, but Jake stood tall, reminding himself of the community he loved. As the storm raged, he reached out to those around him, determined to create a bond forged in resilience. Could he stand against the tide and remind his community of their strength? Would they pull together and fight, proving that in unity, they would not just survive but thrive? The question loomed like the storm above, ready to unleash its fury. The storm lashed violently against the garage, a roaring beast relentless in its fury. Rain rattled the metal roof like an army of hammering fists, and Jake's heart raced alongside the chaos. As he peered outside, the sight twisted his stomach. Trees bent, branches snapped, and debris flew like spears through the air. In that overwhelming moment, the doubts clawed at him harder. The very fears he had hoped to combat now threatened to engulf everything he had started. With shaking hands, he grabbed his jacket and flung open the garage door. He stepped into the raging tempest, water soaking him instantly. But he couldn't turn back, he wouldn't. Each step toward his neighbors' homes required a push against the wind, a defiance against the storm that felt like stepping into the unknown. Inside him, something ignited, a fire fueled by love for his community. Everyone, listen up. Jake shouted, his voice nearly lost amid the storm's roar. We need to get to higher ground. Help each other. There's safety in numbers. Through the sheets of rain and howling wind, faces began to emerge from their homes, peering outside, some confused, others terrified. Yet, something in Jake's voice broke through the panic, ineffectively piercing the chaos. Slowly, a few brave souls began to gather, umbrellas flipping inside out and clothing drenched. Why should we follow you? One man yelled, anger flashing in his eyes. What do you know about storms? You're just a kid. Jake felt the sting of the words but pressed on, raising his voice above the wind. I may be just a kid, but if we don't stick together, we'll all be lost. We need to move now. I can't do this alone. In that moment, he saw the hesitation fade into resolve. One by one, the people hesitated, but then the whispers turned into a tangible energy. A mother scooped up her child, joining Jake with determined steps. Others followed suit, forming a chain of humanity against the tempest. As they pressed forward, the wind howled and tried to break them apart, but Jake found strength in the collective force surrounding him. They worked together, helping the elderly, comforting the scared children. It wasn't just survival, it was a resurgence, a reminder of what they once were. With each passing moment, faces softened, spirits lifted, and shoulders straightened as they banded together against the storm. After what felt like hours, they found refuge in the town's community center, once abandoned but now a sanctuary against the elements. Jake shoved open the doors, and with a rush, everyone poured inside, all breathless and soaked, yet alive with a newfound sense of purpose. They glanced around at each other, uncertainty melting into camaraderie, but as the winds whipped outside, whipping the world into chaos, a new challenge loomed within. The flickering lights overhead cast long shadows, revealing worried faces and silent panic. The storm was not just a physical one, it had stirred something deep within the heart of the community. Jake stood at the front, while a sense of urgency washed over him. This storm isn't just a test of nature. It's a test of us, how we face the chaos together. But we can't allow it to break us. We must grab hold of that spirit to survive and build something greater. Just then, a deafening crack echoed through the building as a thunderclap rattled the roof. The lights flickered, dimmed, and went out, plunging them into sudden darkness. What had they just conjured up? Fear bubbled beneath the surface. The question hung in the air as the storm loomed, unyielding and furious outside. Would they embrace the challenge and find unity amid the chaos, or would they falter like so many before them? One thing was clear, it was time for a choice that would redefine them all. The darkness pressed in like a thick fog, heavy and choking. Jake felt the rising tide of panic around him. Breaths quickened, whispers flared. Hands reached out blindly, seeking comfort as uncertainty clawed at their hearts. He lifted his voice again, trying to cut through the fear. Stay calm. We need to stick together. Let us light the way. There was a tremor in his own voice, but he couldn't let them see it. A few voices echoed his sentiment. Does anyone have flashlights? Someone shouted, a hint of desperation woven into the words. I have a lantern, called an elderly woman at the back. Her tone was steadier than the others, and Jake felt a flicker of hope. As she made her way forward, careful steps on the slick floor, the tension in the room eased just a touch. When the flickering glow emerged, it created dancing shadows on the walls, transforming the barren room into an almost magical space. Faces appeared under the soft light, revealing the worry etched deep into their brows. Yet, there was also determination and strength. Jake could see it, a quiet strength that had been lying dormant, now ignited by the storm. That he positioned himself closer to the light and called out to everyone. We can't just hide out here. We need to plan. We need to know what we'll do if the storm gets worse. Where will we go? Asked a woman, clutching her child tightly against her. Jake could see the fear in her eyes reflecting back at him, and it tore at him. Higher ground, he said, recalling the town map he had drawn as a child, shaded in colorful markers. We can go to the school. It's sturdy and has a basement. That's our safest bet if the storm gets worse. A murmur spread through the group, weighing their options. Some nodded, while others feigned certainty, but it was clear they held doubts. Jake felt his heart race again, realizing it wouldn't be just a physical journey, it would require a collective leap of faith. I know we're scared, he continued, pausing as the flickering light caught him in its grasp. But we will accomplish this together. Every single one of you, your courage is what's going to get us through. Please follow me. A man's voice piped up from the back, skeptical. And what if it's too dangerous out there? Then we help each other, Jake shot back, embodying the urgency he felt. We help each other up, through that chaos out there. The argument hung in the air, but then the elderly woman spoke again, her voice firm yet gentle. We've been through worse than this storm. Together, as a community. We can do it again. Suddenly, something shifted in the room. A spark traveled through the group. One by one, they began to nod, some even stepping forward to take the lantern from her hands. Jake could feel hope blooming in the once quiet corners of the room. With renewed energy, they formed a line. Jake took the lead, guiding them toward the entrance. Each footstep felt heavier on the wooden floor, but courage cascaded through the crowd. They were united by their fear, ready to confront it as one. As they emerged into the storm again, rain beat down on them in freezing sheets, but at least they were moving. The community center quickly shrunk behind them, fading into darkness as they surged forward. The wind howled, inviting calamity, but Jake felt a pulse. They were alive, together, and that meant something. However, as they charged into the chaos, a massive branch broke loose overhead. With a terrifying crack, it swung down like a pendulum, and Jake's heart dropped. "Look out!" he yelled as everyone ducked. But what he didn't expect was for the raw force of the storm to heighten the bond they were forging, or to discover how far he would go to protect his newfound family. Jake's heart raced as he instinctively stepped forward, arms wide, ready to shield the others. The massive branch, snapping in the air, didn't seem to care about the lives beneath it. Just as he braced for impact, a surge of adrenaline pushed him faster. "Get back!" he shouted, reaching for the woman with the child. He yanked her and her little one away just in time, the branch crashing behind them with a deafening thud, sending splinters of wood scattering in every direction. People cried out in surprise, shocked by the force of nature barreling down upon them. The wind howled a refocusing challenge, daring them to move forward. Jake stood up with his heart pounding, his pulse a wild drum in his ears. He scanned the faces of the group. They were shaken, wide-eyed, yet they lingered together, an anchor in a stormy sea. "Is everyone okay?" he asked, voice steady despite the chaos swirling outside. The elderly woman, clutching her lantern, nodded with tears glimmering in her eyes but a newfound resolve setting her expression. "We're all right, thanks to you," she whispered. Others echoed her sentiment, stating they were unharmed, but the gravity of the storm loomed heavy over them. "Keep moving," Jake urged, his voice ringing out with conviction. "We have to reach the school." They pressed on, moving as a single unit under the punishing rain. The gusts of wind felt like icy fingers clawing at them, the world around them turning into a blurriness of shadows and rain. Each step grew heavier, the struggle against fear carved deep into their bones. With each dragging footfall, Jake locked eyes with the mother and her baby. Her gaze spoke wonders, gratitude, fear, and something else, a flickering hope. He felt himself uplifted by that hope, as if it were a light he could carry forward. They trudged onward when suddenly, a flash of lightning illuminated the swirling blackness for the briefest moment, showing them a glimpse of their destination. Just ahead loomed the old school, the silhouette standing stalwart against the raging storm. "Almost there. Keep going," Jake yelled, rallying the group. The school seemed like a lighthouse in the tempest, a beacon guiding them through their uncertainty. As they reached the steps, exhaustion flooded over Jake. He glanced back to see the group drawing closer together, sharing quiet whispers. They felt the fear, the weight of the storm, yet they stood firm like towering trees against the wind. Inside, the air was thick with tension as they crowded together in the familiar hall, pausing momentarily to catch their breath. A flickering light cast a warm glow in the corners. But before he could savor the moment, a woman gasped. "Where's Billy?" she cried, panic creeping back in. "He should have been right behind us." Jake felt the air thicken. "Billy!" he yelled, stepping back outside, instantly greeted by an intense roar of wind. The storm loomed larger, their safe haven slipping further away. "Billy!" he called again, voice breaking, eyes scanning the darkness. What if he had become lost? What if the storm had taken him? As desperation set in, he realized how fragile their newfound bond was. "Jake!" The elderly woman's steadiness steadied his trembling heart. "We can't leave anyone behind. We must find him." Jake took a deep breath. He couldn't let fear dictate their next steps. They were family now, and family stuck together. But in that moment, he couldn't shake a feeling creeping into his chest. It was the realization that he was about to embark on a search that could change everything. With the storm raging around them, the clock was ticking, and every minute mattered. What more would they uncover in this tempest? Would they uncover secrets that would change their lives forever? Jake took a step back into the chaos, the wind howling like a wild animal hungry for more. Heart thumping, he yelled Billy's name again, louder this time. He was determined to make it through the blinding rain, determined not to lose anyone else. "Jake, don't!" shouted a voice from the group as he ventured further out into the storm. But he couldn't stop now. Billy needed him. With each step, rain ran down his face, mixing with the sweat of anxiety. He stumbled into the mud, the ground slipping beneath him as if the earth itself was trying to toss him off. He pushed through the gusts, thoughts racing. Billy was just a kid, caught up in a world that had suddenly turned dark and angry. It wasn't just about finding him, it was about bringing him back to safety. "Billy!" he cried out again, hoping each shout would somehow slice through the turmoil surrounding him. He moved deeper into the shadows of the storm, raised fists full of determination. In the distance, he heard something. A faint whimper? A cry? He sprinted toward the sound, driven by hope and fear both. "Billy! Can you hear me?" Jake called, pushing against the wind, trying to hone in on the sound. But the storm was relentless, swallowing his words before they could travel too far. Suddenly, he found himself in a clearing, the trees swaying violently, almost pleading with him to move on. And there, half hidden behind a fallen log, he spotted a small figure, a tuft of dark hair, soaked and trembling. It was Billy. Relief flooded over Jake, but as he rushed toward the boy, he felt the earth shift again. "Billy!" he yelled, arms reaching out, but as he lunged forward, a low rumble echoed through the air. A loud crack followed, and Jake's heart sank. He suddenly realized that the storm was far from finished with them. "Get down!" he shouted, throwing himself over Billy just as another branch split from a nearby tree, landing where Jake had just stood. It was a close call, and the ground shook beneath them. "Jake! I was scared," Billy whimpered, eyes wide, tears mixing with rain. "I know, buddy. You're safe now," Jake assured him, his own heart racing. He lifted Billy into his arms, holding him close. They had to make it back. The school was the only sanctuary, and he saw the faint glimmer of light from the entrance. "Hold on tight," Jake said as he turned to run. The storm was fierce, the winds pushing against him, but despair wasn't an option. He could practically see the warmth of that classroom now, and it fueled his fight against the elements. As they raced back, the group awaited in the school's doorway, faces pale but lighting up upon seeing them. Relief swept through them like a warm summer breeze, a stark contrast to the icy fingers of the storm still clenching at their heels. "Billy! Thank the heavens!" a woman cried, her voice shaking. "We thought we lost you," shouted another. Jake felt a wave of warmth wash over him as love and gratitude floated through the air, but even as they basked in the sweet relief of reunion, another wave crashed over Jake. The storm was still raging outside, a reminder of the dangers lurking just beyond their fragile sanctuary. "We can't let our guard down," Jake murmured, catching the gazes of each person around him, the weight of their shared challenge settling over them like a heavy blanket. Could they withstand the storm together, or was this only the beginning of what lay ahead? The reality setting in was chilling. They had escaped one danger, but they were still trapped in a fight for survival. What secrets lurked in the night, waiting to be unmasked? Would their courage prevail against the rising storm? The wind howled outside like a beast, relentless and unforgiving. Inside the school, the group huddled close, their faces drawn with fear and fatigue. Jake could see the anxiety etched in their features, the weight of uncertainty pressing heavily on their shoulders. Billy clung to him, still shivering, his small hand clutching Jake's shirt like a vice. "Are we going to be okay?" Billy's voice was barely above a whisper, vulnerable and trembling. Jake knelt down to meet his eye level, his heart aching at the fear in the boy's gaze. "We're safe in here, bud. We just need to stick together. That's the key." He gave a smile, though deep down, he wasn't sure if he believed his own words. The adults around them began to murmur, voices dipping into frantic discussions about what to do next. Jake could hear snippets. "We should call for help. What if we can't? How long will this storm last?" Fear fed their words, wrapping the room in a tension that gnawed at him. Suddenly, the lights flickered and dimmed, sending a wave of panic through the group. Jake's instincts kicked in. "Everyone, stay calm," he shouted, rising to his feet. The darkness felt alive, pressing against their resolve. "We've gotten through the worst of it. Let us make a plan." "Plan?" one of the parents croaked, her voice breaking. "There's nothing we can do but wait it out. What if the roof collapses?" "No," Jake argued, determination surging through him. "We can't fall apart now. We can't just sit here like sitting ducks. We need to check the windows, make sure we've got supplies." He moved toward the nearest window, peering out into the swirling darkness. Rain hammered against the glass, fierce and unrelenting. Yet, through the frenzied downpour, Jake's eyes caught a glimpse of something, a flicker of light, not from the school but further down the road. "Everyone, look." He turned to the group, heart racing. "There's a light out there. Something's still out there." A collective gasp filled the room. Jake's spine tingled with energy. "Maybe it's emergency services? We should investigate. If we can signal them, they might help us get out of here." "But what if it's not help?" a man in the back questioned, fear mingling with reason. "What if it's more danger?" Jake's jaw tightened. He knew the fear, it churned in his stomach like a stone. But doing nothing felt worse. Staying put is not an option. We have to take a chance. We're stronger together. Jake looked around, searching for connections in their eyes. We owe it to each other to at least find out. Billy tugged at his sleeve. I want to help too. Jake knelt again, looking straight into the boy's earnest face. I appreciate that, buddy. But I need you to stay with the others. Can you do that for me? Okay, Billy replied, reluctantly stepping back into the group. With a quick glance exchanged with the others, Jake felt a surge of purpose. The storm continued its onslaught, but they were not alone. Together, they would face whatever lay outside. He took a deep breath, excitement and anxiety coiling in his chest. All right. Let us go. But we'll stick together. Stay close, and whatever happens, we stay together. As Jake led the way toward the door, the group followed, each step heavy with uncertainty. The howling winds erupted into whispers of suspense, the school's threshold offering just enough light to illuminate their path. Outside, the night stretched endlessly, chaotic and unpredictable. What awaited them at the end of that flickering light? Would they find salvation or a new wave of danger? Only time would tell as they braced themselves to face the unknown. Would they uncover the truth that was waiting beyond the storm? With the door creaking open, a gust of wind sent chills down Jake's spine. The world outside looked almost otherworldly, as if they had stepped into a realm where nature had unleashed its fury. Rain fell in sheets, the darkness deepening with every rumble of thunder that shook the ground beneath their feet. Jake squinted into the night, searching for that flickering light. It glowed defiantly in the chaos, a beacon promising answers. The group huddled close, the fear palpable, but the flicker drew them forward like moths to a flame. "Follow my lead," Jake shouted over the cacophony, his voice barely threading through the storm. Each step felt like treading through a torrent, water splashing around their feet as they moved toward the light. "We shouldn't be doing this," a woman shouted, panic rising in her voice. "What if trust me?" Jake cut her off, urgency fueling his words. "If we don't know what's out there, we can't help ourselves. We need to try. For all of us." The small group, once conquerors of their doubts, now echoed scattered murmurs of courage. Each stride they took held the weight of determination, fueled by fear but also by an ember of hope. As they pressed onward, headlights suddenly broke through the rain, illuminating the path ahead. In the distance, a vehicle came into focus, a car struggling against the downpour. Jake could see figures moving around it, silhouetted against the brilliance of the headlights. "Is that our help?" Billy exclaimed, excitement cutting through his earlier fear. "Let us find out," Jake replied, the adrenaline coursing through him. They quickened their pace, eager to reach that vehicle. When they were within shouting distance, Jake called out, "Hey! Over here! We're stranded. Can you help us?" The figures turned, their heads bobbing like shadows. Suddenly, the door of the vehicle swung open, and a man stepped out. He looked disheveled, soaked but determined. "We've been looking for you. Come on. We need to get you all to safety." Jake's heart swelled. "Thank God. We thought we were completely alone out here." But as they rushed forward, grabbing each other's hands for reassurance, a muffled scream pierced the night air. The man froze, eyes darting into the darkness behind them. What was that? A new rush of icy fear gripped Jake, his instincts alerting him to an impending danger. The storm howled louder, almost mocking them, and shadows danced ominously at the periphery of their vision. "We need to stay close," he shouted again, pulling everyone in tighter. Without warning, the headlights dimmed, flickering out entirely as the wind howled louder than ever. The sudden darkness felt heavy, almost suffocating. "Get back to the vehicle," the man yelled, his voice strained. "Now!" Panic ignited in Jake's chest as he turned to face the others. Was it possible something was stalking them, hidden amidst the chaos of the storm? Was this newfound hope now twisted into a different kind of nightmare? The group surged toward the vehicle, hearts pounding in unison, but the shadows began to move. Fear surged through Jake as he struggled to keep them together. "Go! Go!" he urged, pushing Billy ahead. The relentless storm was now just a backdrop to the terror creeping closer. What awaited them in the darkness they were running toward? Would they escape, or had they awakened something far darker in the storm? The answer loomed like an unseen predator, closing in. The wind howled, tearing through Jake's thoughts as they rushed toward the dim outline of the vehicle. All he could focus on was the growing sense of dread clawing at his chest. The scream still echoed in his mind like an ominous bell. Jake glanced back, the night swallowing everything in its black embrace. "Stick together," he shouted again, forcing his voice to remain steady. The last thing he wanted was to lose anyone in the storm. Billy stumbled, nearly tumbling forward, and Jake caught him by the arm. "We're almost there." But as they drew closer, the air thickened with uncertainty. The man by the vehicle suddenly lifted his arm, pointing toward the darkened perimeter. "Stay behind me," he ordered, dread evident in his tone. Jake's stomach twisted. What's out there? He had to know. The shadows behind them felt alive and hungry. "I don't know," the man replied, his face ghostly pale beneath the flickering light of the vehicle's dash. "We just need to get you all inside." Fear and urgency propelled them forward. The rain whipped harder, obscuring their vision. Shoulders brushed against each other, forming a tight protective circle as they dashed toward that small beacon of hope. Suddenly, a loud crash resonated from nearby, like a tree collapsing under the weight of the storm. "What was that?" someone yelled, their voice cracking. "Just keep moving," Jake urged, squeezing Billy's hand tighter as they reached the vehicle. Just as they did, the door swung open, and the man beckoned them inside. Jake pushed the others in, glancing over his shoulder. Shapes twisted in the shadows, their features indistinguishable, and a primal instinct urged him to hurry. "Get in. Hurry!" the man yelled, glancing back nervously. With one last push, Jake climbed inside, flinging the door shut just as a shadow lunged forward, slamming against the exterior with a demonic force. The vehicle shook, and fear surged through Jake's veins. "Go! Go!" the man yelled, his hands fumbling with the keys. As he finally found them, he turned the ignition, the engine sputtering defiantly against the storm's roar. "Please!" Jake cried out, frantic. The shadows pressed close, swirling like a storm within a storm, as the car held them hostage in a narrow beam of light. The engine roared to life. Tires squealed as they tore out of the muddy ground, racing away from the chaos. Rain lashed against the windshield, a relentless assault that mirrored the panic in Jake's chest. He turned to the others, desperately searching for reassurance. Their faces were pale, wide-eyed, caught between relief and terror. "Did we lose it?" someone whispered, glancing at the rearview mirror. Jake's heart raced not just from fear, but from an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. "What was that thing?" he asked, voice low, catching the man's eye. "A creature of the storm," the man replied grimly, hands clenched tightly on the steering wheel. "It feeds on fear and it knows we're afraid." Jake shivered as the weight of those words settled over him like a heavy blanket. They were not safe, not yet. The road ahead spiraled into darkness, and the storm continued to howl outside, as if the world itself was trying to reclaim them. A chilling thought struck him: had they truly escaped, or was the worst yet to come? As the car sped through the rain, Jake felt the darkness closing in again. What kind of creature was lurking in the storm? Did they have to face it to find true safety? The answers ahead promised to be both haunting and revealing, but one thing was clear: this was just the beginning. The storm raged on, its fury unyielding. Inside the vehicle, tension clung to the air like an uninvited guest. The man in the driver's seat, still pale, kept glancing nervously into the rearview mirror. Jake watched him, intrigued and terrified at the same time. Who was this stranger, and what horrific world had they stumbled into? Billy sat beside Jake, shivering slightly. "What do you think that thing was?" His voice trembled like a child's in a nightmare. "I don't know," Jake whispered, trying to keep a brave face. There was no point in letting panic spread. "But whatever it is, it's out there and it's hunting us." The words hung ominously in the cramped space. Around them, the others remained silent, each lost in their thoughts, faces shadows of fear. The flickering interior lights cast eerie shapes on the windows as the rain pummeled the roof, like angry fingers trying to pull them back into the night. "Where south the other road leading?" Jake asked, breaking the silence. They needed to know, needed a plan if they were to survive. "Not many options out here," the driver replied grimly. We're on the edge of a forest, miles away from civilization. He paused, eyes darting as if he could sense the shadows creeping ever closer. There's an old ranger station up ahead if we can make it there. Is it safe? A woman in the back whispered, her voice trembling. Safer than out here, at least. It's abandoned, but we might be able to barricade ourselves. The man's hands tightened on the wheel. Abandoned, Jake muttered, dread pooling in his stomach. How long since anyone's been there? Could be years, the driver admitted, swallowing hard. But it's our best shot. Just hang on. A sudden jolt sent the vehicle lurching to one side. Everyone gasped. The man wrestled with the steering wheel, regaining control. What was that? Jake shouted, panic creeping into his voice. Just the road. The rains made it treacherous, the man responded, though he didn't sound convinced. They all knew that the storm wasn't their only threat. Another crash of thunder met their ears, louder than the last. The surrounding trees flickered in and out of their visibility, towering specters in the dark. The shadows that lurked just outside the light became palpable, reaching for them through the storm. Look! Billy cried, pointing. The others turned, their breaths catching. In the distance, hidden by layers of rain, they saw what appeared to be hulking figures at the edge of the road. Are those people? Jake finished, not ready to say what he truly feared. They were outlined against the darkness, almost human but grotesquely distorted. A shiver walked down Jake's spine, and he locked eyes with the driver. What do we do? Keep driving. We can't stop. The man yelled. His foot pressed harder against the gas pedal. The vehicle surged forward, and the figures began to dissolve into the night, like smoke dispersing into the air. But Jake's heart pounded. He knew they were not safe yet. What if they follow us? He said, a chill wrapping around him. Then we'll have to face them, won't we? The driver replied, his voice steel-tempered with fear. As they sped forward, lights flickering eerily, Jake struggled to control the new wave of panic building within him. Did they think they could outrun whatever haunted the night? The ranger station loomed ahead like a ghostly sentinel, its windows dark, waiting, watching. A low rumble of thunder echoed ominously behind them, and Jake could barely hear over the rain, "Please, let us be safe." Could the station truly offer shelter, or would it only bring greater danger? As they raced toward it, Jake felt the weight of uncertainty settle over him. They might find safety or they might unleash something darker. Something was waiting in the shadows, and the true test of their strength was just beginning. What secret did the rickety old ranger station hold? Whose eyes would be watching when they arrived? The moment they stepped out of the vehicle, a hush fell over the storm, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The ranger station stood before them, weathered and worn, its silhouette daunting against the raging backdrop of the storm. Flickering lights from their vehicle made eerie shadows dance, amplifying the tension that was already thick in the air. "Stay close," Jake urged, grabbing Billy's hand tightly as they moved toward the door. The rain poured relentlessly, soaking them through as he shoved the door open. It creaked on rusted hinges, revealing darkness within a cavernous space filled with the musty scent of old wood and distant memories. As they crossed the threshold, a warmth enveloped them, but it came with an inexplicable chill skittering down Jake's spine. The hardwood floor creaked beneath their weight, the sound echoing unnervingly in the silence inside. "Is this it?" "This feels abandoned," whispered one of the women, her voice trembling. "Don't panic. We'll barricade ourselves, just in case," the driver said, scanning the room for anything they could use. Jake could see the flickering lights from the vehicle outside growing dimmer. He felt the urgency rising inside him. "We need to find something to block the door," he shouted, rallying the group. They scattered, rummaging through the station's forsaken corners. Billy tugged tightly at Jake's side, and he bent down, whispering, "We'll be okay, I promise. We just have to stick together." Billy nodded, resolutely squeezing his hand. After a frantic search, they managed to scrounge up old wooden chairs and tables. With quick hands, they pushed them against the door, creating a makeshift barrier. But as they worked, a low, guttural voice echoed from the shadows, shattering their fragile sense of safety. "You shouldn't have come here." Jake's heart raced. "Who's there?" he called, trying to sound braver than he felt, his grip tightening around Billy. "Something is coming for you," the voice continued, eerie and whispery. "You can't run forever. It knows your fears." Panic surged through the group, their collective breaths held as the shadows shifted. The driver's face went pale, terror written across his features. "We need to find a way out," he shouted, eyes darting around. There's no telling what's waiting outside. Suddenly, another crash of thunder rattled the station, and the lights flickered again. For a moment, all was silent. Then, another figure emerged from the darkness, a man, disheveled and wild-eyed. "Help!" he pleaded as if he was escaping from some unseen horror. "They're coming. You have to listen." "Who are you?" Jake demanded, protecting Billy instinctively. "What's out there?" Trembling, the man struggled to catch his breath. "It's the storm. It brings the darkness. It feeds on fear, your fear turning you against each other until nothing's left." A cold dread settled over the group. But Jake couldn't let that be the end. "We can't let it win. We fought our way through the storm, we can fight this." Billy looked up at him, fear glimmering in his eyes, but Jake felt an undeniable strength surging from deep within. "Remember, we've come this far together. We're family now. Together, we can face anything." The man blinked at him, a flicker of hope sparking in his gaze. "If you're staying, then we need light." A group of them gathered around the man, listening as he described how the shadows moved, how they fed on despair. "There are lanterns upstairs. If we can light them, we might turn back the shadows." "Then let us go," Jake said, fueled by renewed vigor. "We'll stick together, no one gets left behind." They climbed the rickety stairs as the wind howled below. The sounds of the storm seemed to reverberate with terror, yet Jake felt the warmth growing in his heart. When they reached the top, they found lanterns, ancient yet intact. Together, they ignited each one, the flames flickering alive, casting radiant light against the encroaching darkness. "We have to face what's coming," Jake shouted, feeling as if the very act of lighting the lanterns was declaring war against their fears. "No matter what." As if summoned, shadows writhed at the edges of their light, swirling and whispering their fears back to them. But now, with illuminated spirits, the group stood their ground. They could see the darkness for what it was, an illusion, a manifestation of their deepest anxieties. In stepped a few brave souls, holding up their lanterns high, united in courage. "We're not afraid," they shouted, defiance ringing through their voices. Together, they pushed forward, keeping the light bright, illuminating the shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. Jake felt the fear slipping away. In its place, there was strength, a bond forged from the heart. They weren't just surviving. They were thriving. As the shadowy figures began to retreat, fading back into the night, a profound peace enveloped the air around them. The storm's fury softened, giving way to an incredible calm. "Is it over?" Billy murmured, looking up in awe. Jake smiled, relief washing over him. "We faced it, we did it together." The ranger station that had once felt like a prison was now a safe haven, resonating with newfound hope and love. They formed a circle, light flickering between them, each face glowing with the warmth of triumph. With the storm receding, they knew they still had a journey ahead. But as long as they held each other together, they could face the world outside. The storm had transformed them, not just survivors but warriors of their own fears. And with hearts full of determination, they knew that their story wasn't just about weathering the storm, but about rising above, together. So when they finally stepped back outside, they were not just a group set against the darkness, they were a family united by strength and hope. Let this be a reminder: every struggle can breed hope, every tempest can birth strength within a community. As they walked into the dawn light, ready to face whatever lay ahead, they felt that they were never alone. Now, if you resonated with this powerful transformation, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support and not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a difference for us. Comment and share your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this transformation. Let us keep shining bright together.